Okay. Hello, everyone. Oh, hang on, guys. I gotta connect this to the Bluetooth. All right, let's go. In today's episode, I wanted to speak about future understandings. And this sentence that arose to me just popped into my mind. The flower is not the gardener.
The NBA is back with it.
Honestly, what can I say? The flower is not the gardener is a sentence that has a theological meaning. There are many religions on this planet. Actually, there are many behaviors on this planet, and there are many human beings on this planet, and where their attention goes, tends to be ideologically oriented nowadays. Something I would like everybody to consider. All right. Okay, guys, the music is a bit strange, but I like this vibe. So, to be honest, I'm a human being. Experiencing a life where I am noticing the values change. So in some sense, we're born and we have a sense of value. We experience different versions of ourselves, and the contrast between the first value and the other value systems of our simulated self. So what that means is I had a value system when I was 10 years old, I had a value system when I was 20 years old, I had a value system now where I'm 30 years old. Okay. Sorry guys, I have a habit of smoking cigarettes when I give these talks, and believe it or not, it's becoming a bit difficult to give these talks and continue the habit. But there are plans ahead everywhere. Anyways, what can I say? All right, to make this worthwhile, I'm gonna open the notepad. And so we're going to look at this sentence: the flower is not the gardener. I would not say that I have an awareness and understanding of different religions, but I'm not a theologian. However, a theological observation is accessible to anyone. Observations are accessible. You are free to observe before acting. This is why we have minds. And this is really what separates people who I would say are smart and people who are foolish. Their observance brings them more information before acting. Now, when I say the flower is not the gardener, the first question should be, is this a religious statement? Answer: yes, it can be. Question: how? Answer: so let's look at, for example, the order was, I think, like Hinduism. I mean, this was it, I think, Zoroastrianism, I think, Hinduism. Then we have Buddhism. Some people call Buddhism the last chapter of Hinduism. And then we have Judaism, and then we have Christianity, then we have Islam, then we have modern. My God. Okay, I think that was the fastest, you know. Okay, anyways. So, okay. So then we have modern religious movements. And these are a bit, I don't know. We can talk about all of them, and I'll probably talk about everything in the future. One effort I have is to, in some sense, figure out all the ideologies or most of the ideological systems that will serve the advanced civilization in the future. You see, guys, okay, let me explain this. There's so much to say. So we have Zoroastrianism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, Christianity, Islam. I believe this is the order. And then, when we come to these, okay, in Islam, God has no partner. In Christianity, we have the trio: God, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. And then in Judaism, this is something I would love to learn more about. But if my opinions serve me correctly, the focus is on the book more than others, an individual. So I would say a book. And of course, all these Christianity, there is the Gospels. In Islam, there's the Quran. In Judaism, there's the Torah. In Buddhism, we have sutras, but Buddhism is different than Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Okay? Simply because it acknowledges emptiness as a unifying principle. In Islam, Christianity, Judaism, God is the unifying principle, but God is being said to be inconceivable. Okay? In Buddhism, the unifying principle is this realization, not only that everybody is suffering, and their suffering is due to their attachment to a desire, their desires and attachment. But in Buddhism, there's this incredible acknowledgement. I have never seen any other ideological system speak where this is something of objective phenomena is empty. That means if you were a Muslim, Christian, Judaism, hearing this thing the Buddha is saying, it's as if your soul animates the divinity in the moment through you. This is okay. This, anyways. You know, guys, once I shared a story about Guru, about Bodhidharma, this patriarch of Buddhism, and I remember I said he was the 5th patriarch of Buddhism, and somebody messaged me later. He's like, he's not the 5th patriarch. So some of these stuff I have a sense, but you know, the details of it I'll speak generally about. So in Buddhism we have this idea. So okay, here in Islam, I'll write here also connection to the one and only. Connection to, excuse me, I'll say it this way, connection to God, connection to inconceivable God. Now I wasn't raised in Christianity, however I do understand the argument of the Trinity, because this was something where, you know, there is this idea where they say, like, for example, the flower is not the gardener. This is very closer to the Islamic view, where the idea is that the flower did not create itself, so it's not the creator. However, when it comes to Christ and the miracles of the divine, due to there being, for example, the virgin birth, and also this idea that God has imbued its own essence in everyone. That means if you wonder about what the soul is, you ask in Islam, they will tell you it's a mystery of God. But also, for example, there are, if my memory serves me correctly, there are hadiths, and in these hadiths there are sayings such as the soul is a rank. The soul has a rank. Literally, it's like a military vibe, okay, where souls of the same rank notice each other. Do you understand? And this is something very obvious, I find, in regards to the friends we make in this life, you know. And the incredible thing is, people change, and in order to maintain friendships, the friendship has to change. It's kind of like a highway life. People are driving at different speeds, different miles per hour, kilometers per hour. And so those who are in the same lane, imagine there's some beings, they're all in the third lane. They're moving very fast in this universal sector. Their karma is happening very quickly. And then you have, for example, beings in the second lane. They're going a bit slower. And the third lane, those are beings who are going slow and may even exit the highway at some point. Honestly, life is kind of like this. You start off in the third lane, hilariously. Life is going very fast. You have energy and all of this. And by the way, guys, there's a reason I said Mr.Within. I chose that name because I'm just 1 in 8 billion, I'm just sharing how far I see so far. If there are people who feel I am missing things, or I have blind spots, or I'm not noticing things, feel free to share. Feel free to show me my blind spots, and I would appreciate it. The human nature is beautiful in all countries, all cultural programs. A lot of people, for example, right now the world is playing, what it is? It's the gossips in high school. For example, it was like all the drama that was in a small universe. We have made the world smaller by making us into specifics. Do you understand? It's like the divide and conquer strategy, but it was so ingeniously done that you have been divided from your world through linguistics. Language. Why do you think I talk so much? You think it's because I love talking? I mean, part of me probably does, but at the same time, I don't think I love talking. I love sharing. I think that's the thing. There's moments in my life where this quote from Rumi, ever since I read this quote, it changed my life. It gave so much purpose. And Rumi said, before this poet from 700 years ago, he said, before death takes all that is given, give away all there is to give, because you cannot hold on to yourself till the end. That is not, you see, we are not designed to be immortal here. We're designed to be mortal, and a mortal being looking at an unknown world, wondering why it's in the middle of nowhere, why it is in all the stories that people have believed in. It's for a performance. I am really convinced that the human species is here to do something, and it could be a potential that human nature is a phase. Some people say the internet might be like, there might be no internet in the future, and I was like, nah, man, it's the other way. There might not be reality, or we may not care for reality. Do you understand? You know how many people, it's like it's just our human nature, right? Human nature, it sees something. If it's not enough for it, it goes looking for something else, and this something else could be based on an inaccurate analysis. People think that all their ideas are correct all the time. Do you know how difficult it is to realize you don't know anything? And it's a beautiful moment, because that's when you free yourself to know anything. When you don't know anything, that's when you can know anything. Man, I should make that a talk or something. This world is an incredible place. Not just because I'm here. Because the potential, do you understand? The human species is not like an Olympic athlete. It's like a little kid who has shown that it has the capability. It has, in some sense, the mind for it. Our species has the mind for an advanced civilization. How do we know this? Because we have built an unadvanced civilization. Just we need to update it. That's it. You know. Okay, so back to this. The flower is not the gardener. Let's look at this from different lenses. In Islam, this idea is there. In Christianity, it's kind of, I would love to understand this more about Christianity, Judaism, even Buddhism, Hinduism. Hinduism, I've done a bit of research there, Buddhism and Hinduism. The religions, monotheistic religions, I've also looked into it. You know, you can't be born in a theocratical society and not wonder what religion means. You know, imagine being in a society where everybody's attention is on an inconceivable being. Anything happens, people say, God willing. You know, in Iran, I remember there was like, imagine this kid does a backflip and there's people in the market with like tasbih, which is like the Islamic rosary, and they're like, you know, spinning it around their finger, and they say, mashallah, look at what, and mashallah is like this idea that look at God's will today, something in those lines. So in Christianity, it's a connection to an inconceivable, the context is an inconceivable God, but the context, but the concept is a conceivable God, which is Christ. And you know, you can't be a kid at the age of 7, your parents bring you to Canada, you know, and you can't live in a, you know, in a culture and not get acquainted with its values, you know. And so I have been raised in a Christian culture, believe it or not. In both, actually, you know. I found that to be a blessing. When I was younger, I was like, my parents are playing basketball between two countries. They're bouncing the ball between two countries. You know, it's like me and my brother were like basketballs, and they were like, parents were playing basketball. But it was a blessing because I got to see two cultural programs, and the two cultural programs clashed in my mind as I was trying to figure out who I am or what I am, in what way I am. You know, I'm this hilarious guy where I would say right now, culturally speaking, I'm like neither 100% Iranian culture, neither 100% like, you know, Canadian culture. You know what I'm saying? I'm kind of like a hybrid, a hybrid of two cultural programs. But the more I studied all of these, like I hybridized everything after some point. Anyways, so that's what I find very interesting in Islam. So the concept of God is considered, it like the concept as a concept, it's conceivable. That's a different talk. I'll talk about it in the future. Because I have this very unique view that I don't understand. If God is inconceivable, how can we conceive it as an idea? Isn't that making it small? Isn't treating God as a word in some sense conceivable? But God is inconceivable. So the name of God is like a finger pointing to God. It's not God. You see? But it doesn't mean the resonance and the divinity is not aligned. I'm saying I'm just saying that it's all about our relationship with the human, right? So for example, if I want to say all these religions in the garden metaphor, in Islam it's like a bunch of flowers in a garden, and the flowers believe that none of the flowers are the gardener. Okay? In Christianity, it's as if, for example, imagine like there were the flowers and there came a hose. Okay, a hose, a divine hose, you know? And so the flowers, all the flowers in the garden, they all, once they go towards the hose, they feel alive, they feel the blessings, they see Christ in everything, you know, the Christ consciousness they speak about. So it's as if the flowers in the garden, a hose has appeared, but a hose that looks like a flower. Do you know? But it's not a flower. It is the gardener's will. Do you see? So I would say Christ was in some sense the very divine individual. In Islam, for example, Christ is honored as a prophet, right? But to see Christ as God would be, in at least in the Islamic context, would be to see God as man. But God is beyond man. But Christ was not any man. So you see, there's a very deep discussion here. I think Muslim scholars and Christian scholars have all been debating this. I mean, there's videos online. But so far, I'm using this metaphor. In Judaism, I know about certain Judaic events. I know about the candle that did not go out. You see, it seems like the ancient world was filled with miracles simply because people did not even have a capability to correlate reason, right? Reason came after the miracle of existence. You see, and now we're all using reason to comprehend something that is unknown and known. So we're using a known system to comprehend something that has known and unknown variables. And so we figure out the known variables, and then we're like, yo, what about the unknown? And all the materialists are saying, yo, don't put your head out of the box. You know, just sit in this box. Just think you're an object. You know, that's what everything means. And I'll be like, yeah, I'm just an object. And what's this idea in my mind moving me? What's this attention that moves around? Why is it that I have a dream, and the dream I see stuff while my body is asleep, and I wake up and the dream has influenced my consciousness, as if consciousness is getting influenced by abstract events and real events, but the body is just a real event. If I limit my mind to my body, then I have in some sense limited reality. How dare you make me limit reality when it's limitless in front of me? When I can't see the sky, how dare you give it an edge? Rise, mankind, rise. You must rise in the inner realms and the outer realms. Do you know I'm waiting for a lionized species? You know, I saw this incredible video, okay? I saw this video of this one lion and a pack of hyenas, okay? And it's like one of those scenes where Christopher Walken would have narrated, right? He has an incredible monologue about lions. Incredible acting. I saw this video that this lion alone, with a pack of think of it like 10 hyenas, and the hyenas were smart. They were bit by bit clawing biting the lion. They were smart because they understood their numbers could defeat a giant. Do you understand? But you know what happens when a giant is under attack? Do you know when an army attacks a giant, what happens? A giant army appears. In the video, the lion was was dying there alone, and suddenly another lion comes into the scene. Do you understand? That one lion is like a pack of 10, 12 hyenas freaking killing it. And then another lion came in. And all the hyenas, suddenly it was like roars combined, and the hyenas ran away. Because the presence of that force there was strong. And so the human species is the same. The hyenas are the ideological systems that in some sense deny you of your humanism. And it's not that ideological systems are all wrong or right. It's kind of like a technology, right? It's kind of like, what do you use a knife for? You use a knife to cook food. Oh my God, Chef Ramsay, clap for him. You know, if you use a knife to hurt people, it's like an insane psychopath. So what does that mean? This means how you have been using the moment can be used differently. How you have been experiencing, how you have been a user of your own life technologies. Okay, let me look this up. I need to. Judaism. Alright guys, I'm doing a bit of research, thanks to AI. So I don't know how accurate this is, but viewers feel welcome to correct me. So in Judaic metaphysics is a branch of Jewish philosophy that seeks to understand the nature of existence and the relationship between God and the world. It is based on the belief in a single omnipotent God who created and sustains the universe. According to Judaic metaphysics, God is the ultimate source of all reality and is beyond human comprehension. However, through study and contemplation of the Torah and other holy texts, humans can gain insights into the divine will and the nature of reality. While the concept of enlightenment, as found in Eastern spiritual traditions, is not typically part of Judaic metaphysics, there is strong emphasis on the pursuit of wisdom and ethical living as a means of achieving spiritual fulfillment. You see how many flowers. Imagine religious people on the planet, or just think of flowers. How many flowers don't have a scent? There was this saying that they said, if you dishonor your parents, you go distant, you become distant to God. Okay? In the sense of you are, in the sense of a sort of rejecting where you came. Or not acknowledging where you came from. For example, my whole life I was running after knowledge and I realized I came from the unknown. I'm an unknown being. Everybody thinks I'm a known being because I have a name, I'm expressing myself, personality, all of this, but it's an unknown being. It's an unknown being in an unknown world. That's the advanced being. When the species doesn't fear the unknown, it will know itself in myriad ways, in infinite ways. You are being human because you don't understand there is more than human. But if there was more than human and it wasn't human, what can the human do? And so the human has to cultivate the ability of observing self. This is very important. All spirituality starts from wondering who you are. That's it. That's how it starts. You live a life. If life gives you victories, you may never question it. That means if from the beginning everything I tried, like I had won in, if I had never been defeated, I would not look at life differently. So our failures, our defeats, are just other ways to look at life. And I'm waiting for that day where everybody becomes cheerful when any human being advances. I'm telling you, these are old lower world attitudes: jealousy, greed, selfishness. We're all temporary beings. All our competition is bullshit. Okay? All of it is to some degree just games we're playing. Okay? That's what life means when your physicality at some point, one is dismissed out of existence. I had a very profound psychedelic experience like years ago. I think in 2020. And I was in this botanical garden. And for a moment, I was just alone, just looking at the flowers. And for a moment, the moment just paused and I felt a presence enter the room. I didn't see anything. I just felt there was a presence in the room, and the presence of that being was equivalent to like a general, was equivalent to some, like, have you seen in like the drill sergeant comes in and all the soldiers are like, they salute, and then the sergeant is like, at ease, and then they all relax. It was that kind of moment where I felt something very true, true presence entered the moment, and my whole body froze, and then it said at ease, something like that. And I felt completely relaxed and capable of receiving that presence. Many people don't know what they have until, the opportunity passes. That's the bizarre thing about life. I think this is why patience is a secret, because sometimes when you're patient, you get to see victories where you used to see defeats. In Buddhism, we have the idea of not connecting to God. Not connecting to God. There is no sense of God in Buddhism. There is higher dimensional beings, like there are bodhisattvas and, different entities. Buddhism does acknowledge an interdimensional reality. Islam, Christianity, and Judaism also acknowledge an interdimensional reality. But modern secular culture doesn't acknowledge an interdimensional reality. The only way it acknowledges it is either mathematically or, it's mathematically. Geometrically and mathematically. So God has turned into geometry for secular people. Secular people, your spirituality, your divinity is in geometrical transformations of the essence of your being. Geometry is the divinity of the secular. That means materialists most likely just immortal geometric beings. Anyways, whatever, guys. That's something else. Anyways, so in Buddhism, not connecting to God, but connecting to real self. Okay, this is huge. All right, all the people who think, like Hinduism, when I was younger, people were like, polytheisms, they're worshiping multiple gods. In monotheism, they're worshiping only one God, right? It's like, blasphemy, da-da-da-da-da. And then when I looked at it, when I really looked behind the hood, like you open the hood of the car, what is going on is that all religions are considering an inconceivable variable. That's the common denominator. In Hinduism, Buddhism, they see an inconceivable self. Okay, their self is the truth. Their consciousness. In, for example, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, this is where instead of saying, ask yourself who you are and wonder about what yourself is, they are saying you were created, and because you were created, you need the Creator's assistance. But the Creator is inconceivable. So what it means is, when a human being goes to connect to God, the only thing that is possible is faith, because it's inconceivable. How can you have faith? How can you believe in something inconceivable? That's why they call it faith. Believe it or not, you believe in the idea of God, but you can only have faith in God. Nothing else, because it's inconceivable. The idea is conceivable, but the God is inconceivable. So what does that mean? That means if you are to have faith in the inconceivable, doesn't matter if you whatever conditional entity you see, whatever conditional situation, doesn't matter if I think I am God, doesn't matter if I think the world is God, doesn't matter if I think the God is beyond the world. Ultimately, it's the attention of consciousness to the inconceivable presence of being. In religion, in monotheistic religions, why does Islam mean submission? People misinterpret that. They think it's a militaristic thing. No, it's, I don't know, but I don't think it's just that. What it is, how would I say it? How can you do anything, attach any verb to the inconceivable? How can you have any relationship with the inconceivable? Do you understand? That means the idea of God is the shadow of God. But the shadow of God is brighter than any shadow of this world. This is why God's name has a power. Before I discovered what meditation was, I was introduced to prayer. And so I remember when I was a young kid, I was afraid of the dark. I don't know, I'd seen this movie or something, And I went to my mother and I'm like, yo, I can't sleep. What should I do? And she said, say God's name 7 times. So my little, childish mind, every night that I couldn't sleep, anything that bothered me that I couldn't sleep, I would just say God's name 7 times and I would count with my fingers, and I would count with one hand, so it would, yeah. So, but anyways, I would say that all the time without even really understanding what I was saying, Now I understood what I was saying, but not realizing the depth of it. But for years, every night I was saying that. In any situation, even I had exams, I had a biology, when I was grade 6, I was in Iran in this school called Tehran International School, represent. They called it TIS. Good times. I remember I was the only one who got 100 on my biology exam out of everybody in the class, simply because I would go and just, we had this biology teacher, and this biology teacher, every kid in the classroom really respected him and liked him, because randomly he would go and punch people, but in a playful way. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, he would see a kid that's bored in class and he would go and like put his fist on the kid's shoulder and like kind of like, I was on very good terms with this teacher, because one day I saw he was super tired or something, and I had like an extra juice box, and I just went and gave it to him, and I don't know, after that it was like, yo man, my grades improved. The artificial score that some other human mind is judging my mind is like, yo, got a good artificial score, You don't know how much paper is being wasted in the educational system for nothing, just for the child to see a letter on it, and we killed trees just so children, felt either bad about themselves or good about themselves. That's it. We are destroying nature just to feel good, and that's bullshit. So, somebody once said the distinction between polytheism and monotheism in a very beautiful way. It was some guy's thesis I found online. I don't even know who, but it was incredible. And so the person had used 2 sentences to describe, and he said, in polytheism, everything is God's. But in excuse me. But in monotheism, everything is God's. That means there's a separation between the S and the D. So what does that mean? It means that everything belongs to one supreme source. In polytheism, everything is one supreme source. It's the same. It's the same. The language has made these people fight each other. It's the same. Because the world, it's like whether you're polytheistic, whether you're monotheistic, it's like we're all in they're considering a created world. Do you understand? Like we're in the same room disagreeing on what the room looks like. It's like, imagine 8 billion beings in one room on one planet, and one of them's like, no, this room is like this, and the other's like, no, this room is like that, and they're beating each other, not realizing they have an opportunity to appreciate their individualisms, to have respect for all of God's creation, which is everything, and in some sense work to see how great God's creation is. That's what the advanced civilization means. The advanced civilization is not an anti-God idea. It is actually the idea that is waiting to see. The idea follows this, that God created such an incredible being that he commanded his whole creation to bow to him, to bow to this individual. And then there were some discrepancies, some conflict and whatnot, some disagreements, but man has the potential of the greatest. And an advanced civilization, advanced humanity means have faith in your advancement. Even if you are not moving your world, have faith because you're in it. What else can you do? If I'm in a car moving in a highway, I can't be like, yo, I'm not going to drive because I'm going to detach and be super spiritual and not drive this vehicle. It's like foolishness. You got to drive your existence beyond language. Hinduism, I could tell you from all these traditions, there's something to learn from everything, if you're smart. If you're smart, the world is your teacher. You think people are teachers? That's so egotistical. Thinking another human can teach another human how to be that human is ridiculous. All we can say is what we're experiencing, and if others can use that to update, great. I'm someone, I'll share something. I have such a the way life has happened is so unique. When I was younger, I was so into sports. And so it was just really, it was second nature physicalism. Like being a physical entity was so easy, was so comforting, was so comfortable because there was no analytical doubt of action. But if you spend like a decade, 8 years every day trying to analyze what reality is, after some point you're going to realize you have more comfort being a non-physical being than a physical being. And I experienced that. This is why in some of the talks I was like, yo, even though I'm trying to give 10,000 talks, we have not found an efficient system for this, right? I'm just really praying that, because many people don't know, there's a lot of chemicals that they are chemicals of in some Native American traditions, they have this view that certain chemicals lead to spiritual awakening. But the idea is that any sort of impact, it doesn't matter if you take psychedelics, or imagine you suddenly you get hit by something and you go into some intensity, right? That sudden intensity of impact will make consciousness react to it. What that means is whatever you go through, a part of you wants to figure out what happened, even though it happened to it. This world is incredible, you know, it's just unknown beings. I have no idea who everybody is. And yet I am here and I look like everybody. We have the same skeletal structure. We're all part of the same species, but we appear to ourselves, we come across to ourselves as different beings. So the question is, why should different beings, different minds be in the same physical room? I mean, if I treat the world as my body, then I'm sharing the same body as everybody else. But if I treat just this biological body as part of just only this as my body, then yeah, separation. So it's based on what? See, life is like consciousness is like sight, access to sight, and you're perceiving abstract and real events. And sometimes when we actually move in the outer realms, it's because we've actually lived the moment in the inner realms. This talk, you might not believe it, but my mind, before I say a single word, my mind is already seeing the other, you know, because what I think I'm doing here with these talks is that I have found a way, or at some point in my life, my imagination converted from language to films. So when I'm giving these talks, I'm like sitting here and I'm seeing a film in my mind, and I just give words to the images. So it is very obvious the flower is not the gardener. The gardener is not the flower, but the gardener is watching over the flowers. The gardener takes care of the flowers. The gardener appreciates and enjoys the flowers. You know, so many people talk about love. A huge hobby of human beings is appreciation. And people are like, yo, why did God create this? Why did God do this? Do you know? And the answer is to appreciate its genius. You know, there was one night I had such a profound experience. I just literally like jolted up, and I was like, God is so smart, God is so smart, God is so smart. I was freaking out because I understood what the role of death. This might sound bizarre, but if you are not physical, what dies? It's bizarre. So as a flower in the garden of existence, the gardener is not from the garden. The garden was not created in the garden. The gardener did not sprout from the garden, but the gardener watches over the garden. The advanced civilization will watch over humanity, but it will not be humanity. But humanity will be it. Just like how man connects to God when he accepts his part. Do you think it's random? You are of a design. You think your shape in the middle of nowhere. There is stuff moving in the middle of nowhere. And people are like, yo, what is divinity? You know, there's something moving here. That's divinity. Movement in the middle of the inconceivable. So this doesn't mean that there is right and wrong, because all religious, it doesn't matter, Hinduism, Judaism, Christianity, they might have different views on God, but when it comes to the idea of the soul, do you understand? Like, this is something very beautiful in both polytheistic traditions and monotheistic traditions. In Islam, in monotheistic traditions, there's this idea, at least what I'm familiar with. The idea is that after you die, and then you are, in some sense, you arise. An ethereal version of yourself arises. And then you go through conceptual humanized judgment. You go through divine judgment of your humanized states. Do you understand what it is? I'll give you an example. It's like we've suddenly entered a film, okay? The soul is not an actor, okay? The soul, let me say it this way, it's like a bunch of beings, they came on a film set, a bunch of people, they suddenly found themselves on a film set, okay, and then they finished shooting the film, right, and these people have no idea why they were on the film set. At the end, the director's like, yo man, you came in my film set randomly, you did this thing good, you did this thing bad, you're gonna get hired for the next job, you're gonna get fired for the next job. Do you see what I'm saying? It's your performance. Your divinity is your performance in the middle of nowhere, in the void. Someone is talking to you now. I am not claiming I am divine. I am saying what is happening as at all is divine. And advanced humanity will be found. They will arrive. You know what it is? I have visions. My whole life, if I was to share with viewers an emotion that I've had from the time I started giving these talks, I feel like I'm holding open doors for those who will come and bring the main event. Do you know my lifetime? I'll give myself like 20, 30 years, and then I'm out of here. And if I get old, like that becomes even. It has its own intensities, That means I have to shift gears. Most likely, as the Sufis say, to die before you die. The idea of you that is not you fades in the presence of the real you. The flower is not the gardener, but it is the gardener's work. It is the gardener's great work. We are God's project or God's projection. In Hinduism, God is sleeping, and 3 days of God sleeping is equivalent to, I don't remember the number, like 64 or 58 million years, 64 million years, something like that. Do you understand? There are scales. There are scales beyond humanized conceivable capability. So, as a flower in a garden, are you supposed to go and make all the other flowers into flowers? Should one imagine, can you imagine a garden? Imagine all the people on the planet, right? In the garden of existence, they're all different flowers. Now imagine the roses are like, no, we're going to do what Hitler did. Everybody be a rose. We're going to do what, and imagine all the dandelions are like, no, everybody be a dandelion. Everybody be a tulip. Everybody being this. And we'll be like, you're destroying the garden of God by not playing your part rather than changing the garden. Do you understand? This is something I got scolded by the divine, by this. There was this was years ago, I think in 2016 actually. I had a dream where I felt the dream was like I had committed a sin. I don't know what it was, right? And I remember the holy, like in Muslim families, you have the holy book around you, like in your room, just like people have Bibles in their home, right? So I remember I see this messed up dream, the closest dream I've seen, one of the closest dreams I've seen to hell. It was a hellish dream, okay? I wake up from this dream, the imagery was so effed up that I just open, I'm just in this startled sense. I open to the left of me, I have this table, and there's the Quran. I opened the Quran, and it was the passage of Jonah, Yunus. And I don't know, and I remember I opened another passage, and sorry, this was a different time, but I'm trying to tell you how I got scolded by the divine, okay? I opened the Islamic holy book, and in it said something in the lines, I don't remember the exact, but it was so synchronistic in the moment it happened. It said, you think God needs you to go and in some sense save everybody. God has in some sense wiped civilizations before this civilization. It has that means the gardener can instantly pick the flower out of the garden if it becomes a weed. Do you see? Your evil actions lead you to getting pulled out of the garden quickly. Why? Because what's the point of destroying a garden which you're existing in? Stop destroying the only place you have, whether it's earth or whether it's your ultimate reality. Honor what you don't know. This is so difficult for people, because for most people, I gotta like someone after I know them, I gotta do this, I gotta honor them after I know them, all of this. But divinity doesn't mean you like the person's personality. Divinity doesn't mean you're just gonna do, somebody told you to do something and you just do that. Divinity means your world is alive.